I'm going to have to go by memory, but we'll address them later. I'll follow up with chat.
Well, I'll just be here for any IT issues that.
Yeah, I'll try to facilitate so you can just watching.
All right. Thanks, Cliff.
No problem.
All right. We're live.
Hello, everyone. We're going to start about 9:03 with the first session today. So we'll let you guys kind of gather in.
Well, I don't want to speak too soon, but so far this has been pretty smooth. Being notified and hi, good morning, and setting this up. I haven't used this platform before, but a bunch of new ones coming up, Wova, and then this one. So it's interesting that people are adapting to these, but so far it seems like it's going pretty well. I don't want to jinx us. Sorry.
I got to say, the platform is very user-friendly. It took me a while, it's something new, so it took a while to kind of play with it and figure it out yesterday. Having done a few conferences, I really want to hug the conference planning team because it's a lot of work.
Yeah, no, I've been pretty impressed, especially folks adapting to the changing venue, and that's happened to a couple of things. We had Nevada hosted the National Association of Abandoned Minelands programs and quickly had to switch to virtual, and I'm sure it was some late evenings for people.
Oh, wow. You had to switch in the middle of it?
Well, like right before,
Oh, okay.
literally like a couple of weeks before. And so, that's just tough.
We're having more hybrids. In fact, ITCN is hosting a hybrid tomorrow where some people are in person and virtual. I don't know. People are still logging on. We don't have that many in, so maybe 9:05 we'll start. What I'm concerned about is people are kind of talking about in-person meetings in January, but I'm concerned about a surge after the holiday season. I don't know if it would be an accurate surge, so I think we should all go forward and do the in-persons with some caveats,
Is that what's that behind you over your right shoulder, Cliff? Is that a stuffed animal or something? Or
that is the top of my Halloween costume.
Oh, awesome!
I am a lobster this year.
Awesome.
I'm really into Halloween. I was hoping to win the Halloween costume party this year. My costume is pretty good.
That is cool.
Yeah. You guys aren't having a Halloween costume party, are you?
Not people are, able to, dress up and that kind of thing, but we aren't having like typically we'd have a kind of a contest and all that. We're not doing that, but the coming into work dressed up is encouraged that week.
So the Friday before it, I could come in dressed in my costume, the 29th.
Yeah, I will check the day.
Okay.
You sent a note out, but I'm not sure. I think that might be the day. I'm actually going to be traveling.
Oh.
So I won't be around, but
that's better. The boss won't be around. I'm watching the attendees, and a lot of our staff is here, but not so much directors. That's okay, though. Oh, Shasta's even online. We'll start out. Okay, everyone. Thank you. This is a yearly session. All the states do, communicating with the state environmental protection offices, Nevada, California, and Arizona. Hopefully one day Hawaii. And we do it a little differently in Nevada. Coordinate with the Intertribal Council of Nevada. We're unique in that we have a liaison through the Intertribal Council of Nevada. And So what I was going to do first is introduce myself. You don't know me. I'm Cliff Banuelos. I am the Tribal State Environmental Liaison for the Intertribal Council of Nevada, working with the Nevada Division of Environmental Protection. And my position was created in 2003 out of the urging of the Pyramid Lake Paiute tribe and the Duck Valley Shopai tribe, with issues that they're trying to resolve with the state. And through working with the Environmental Protection Agency and the state, they made this position. And so NDEP is licensed enough through the MOU that created the position to give me a office there and other resources that I need to do my job. And then I'm paid though through an EPA grant, but ITCN is my employer. I am not employed by the state, just to clarify that. And I think we have an excellent relationship with the state, but yeah, I do keep everything in house that I can. That's private information or caucus information. And so what I do basically is, well, right now I'm working on some state matters. Western side of the state, we have projects around the Lake Tahoe area that I'm coordinating communication on with tribes. There's a pipe project in the Washoe Valley, just following that along. There's the Anaconda Copper Mine cleanup, coordination with the Yerington Paiute tribe and the Walker River Paiute tribe on that. And we try to keep that open line of communication. And then the Carson River Superfund is a new one kind of running up, and working with that, I'm tracking at. I know the Fallon Paiute tribe is involved in the meetings, and the Washoe tribe of California and Nevada is also in that. But anybody is invited to participate. It's covering quite an important area of the Carson River. Leviathan Superfund, Washoe tribe deals with that. I just track it out of the request from the Washoe tribe. I'm not actively involved in that, but any of these large things too, if the tribe doesn't want me involved with it, I'm not. I have to follow the urging of the tribe, but I do track them and try to see what's happening just to keep up on them. But we do work on the Anaconda Copper Mine cleanup. And then other things, Thacker Pass Lithium Mine is a new one, the permitting process, other activities related to that. I'm trying to gather information on it to keep up. And I did at our Nevada session yesterday and at the Nevada meeting we had with tribes last week, kind of give an update on the lithium mine. Not much has changed since last week, except that the air permit went out, but I believe the air permit went out in the middle of the Nevada session. So, and they did communicate, the state did communicate with the chairman over there at Fort McDermott, Paiute Shoshone tribe. And state implementation of policies under the federal administration, so Waters of the U.S., other federal policy changes, try to coordinate information sharing on that, as Mervyn Wright Jr. also does through the RTOC. And any meetings that the tribes request, or even the state wants to request, I try to facilitate those meetings to discuss. Normally the tribes want to know how the state is going to implement something or what they're going to do regarding these policy changes. Often their policy, they could be something else. Coordinating those meetings, communicating permits to the tribes is something else I do. I do kind of funnel through them, and the state does try to communicate with tribes when they see a really pertinent, important permit that they know the tribe will want to be interested in. But normally the bureau chiefs or someone from the state normally contacts me and asks for who the point of contact is and how they share that information regarding a specific large permit. But there's all sorts of permits that come out daily, and I do try to do my best communicating that, but I do recommend being set up on the state clearinghouse system to get that information on the permits. And like anything else, you funnel through them and look for the ones that are relevant. Although I would, make sure that you're not just looking for geographical issues. There could be overarching issues at your leadership. So you have to look at it as not just your job of what you do, but what your leadership might be interested in. And then communicating with state bureaus, the best way to communicate with tribes. Other activities I do are technical assistance to tribes, grant writing, work plan development, budget development, trainings that you need, and then facilitating other meetings. And then what we're trying to do at ITCN is better coordination with the ITCN board on environmental issues, and better communication with the state on Nevada bills tribes want to pursue. So we can't lobby because we have an EPA grant. we're not able to lobby, but I can act as a facilitator of information back and forth. And we have better coordination with the Nevada Indian Commission on some of these things. And although we're not doing the legwork, um, communicating to Nevada Indian Commission issues that they may not know about, that valid concern may be tagging along with the bill, or maybe a bill that a tribe backs. But we can't do the legwork, but we can act as like that person behind you giving the technical assistance. That's really, have to really watch what we do regarding that, though. And so today we're going to do the session with Greg Lovato, who is the NDEP administrator over in Carson City. And I'll be helping with tracking your questions on chat. We'll try to answer the ones today. If there's follow-up ones, I've been told we can look at chat later and I can get those questions and I'll follow up coordinating with Greg and his team over at NDEP. And so I guess without further talking for me, I'd like to introduce NDEP Administrator Greg Lovato.
Thanks, Cliff, and good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me. I think this is my fourth attendance and presentation, and it gives me a chance to maybe do something different each time. A couple of sessions ago, we talked about sort of an overview of NDEP and what we do by the Bureau, and then we focused a little bit last time on our climate strategy. And this time I just want to just kind of give you an update of what's new, so to speak. And I tried to pick out items that I think might be of interest to Nevada tribes that are, we're focused on right now. And so I'll go ahead and share my screen, and hopefully I get this working well. I'm getting a, sorry, I just did this earlier with Cliff and I did it well. And now for some reason, I'm not able to bring up, Let's see, let me try again here. Apologies. Not sure why. Maybe I need some technical help. I'm sorry.
I see Shasta and Heidi on. They're part of the team, planning team.
So I'm trying to share my PowerPoint. I'm hitting share, and then I hit the share screen, and then it starts populating little things inside the entire screen. For some reason, I can't click on my PowerPoint presentation.
Hey, Greg, you weren't able to choose the screen you can share?
Yeah, it's weird because I have, so I choose share screen, then I go to the little screen picture, and then under entire screen, it starts putting a bunch of little windows inside one screen, but it doesn't show my PowerPoint.
Cliff, do you have to happen the PowerPoint with you as well?
Yeah, I do.
Do you want to try sharing it on your end? See if it works.
I haven't done a share yet. I'm looking for the button or key.
It's right below the camera on the left. There's a little arrow inside a screen. That's funny. It just worked like right before we got on.
I have to go on the window, entire screen, then window.
Chris, I do have it loaded up inside this session.
Can you see that?
I see a dark screen right now.
And let me see if I can pull it up too.
Yeah, mine says it's sharing, but I guess it's just looking at a dark screen.
Greg, you said the PowerPoint is in the
I loaded it up this morning as a PDF
Okay, let me try.
into the documents for this session.
All right.
I wonder what changed.
See if I can do it. Share option.
I see it now.
Yeah, I see it up now, and it looks like it's on the first slide.
All right. Well, just let me know. I'll scroll through it and manage the slides for you. So go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you, Chris.
It's a little small on my screen. I'm not sure if people will be able to see it. It looks like it's a window in Windows. Is there any way to make it like full screen or anything like that for people? Or that's about the biggest you can get it. Well, we'll roll with it. Thanks. So thanks everybody again. Sorry for that delay. And you already know who I am and what we're here to do, so we can advance to the next slide. So I wanted to start off just highlighting some of the legislation that was passed in 2021 and signed by the governor that may be of interest to environmental programs among the tribes. And one I wanted to start out with was Assembly Bill 97, related to per and polyfluoroalkyl substances. This was brought by Assemblyman Watts, and his goal was to, try to understand and come up with some plans for the understanding and monitoring the extent of PFAS compounds in Nevada. Just as a little background, back in 2006, there was a what's called unregulated contaminant monitoring rule review of a number of the different water systems in Nevada. It was a snapshot in time, but thankfully, unlike many of other states, Nevada didn't seem to have any severe impacts. But it doesn't mean that we can't. Something might not be coming, and so this law is, I would say, more advisory than prescriptive in how it got passed. It does require NDEP to convene a working group, and that'll be kicking off in the next several weeks here. There's a gentleman in our drinking water program. His name is Michael Antoine. We actually had another person named Kim Rigdon, who recently just left NDEP. She was heading it up. She's going to be at the Western Regional Water Commission up in Reno. And so Michael will be taking over. And what we're going to be doing with that work group is, pursuant to the bill, convening a group of stakeholders and coming up with an overall set of recommendations for how to address PFAS in Nevada. And so that effort will be starting here in the next several weeks. If folks are interested, please let me or Cliff know, and we'll get you in touch. Or if you just want to stay updated on what they're doing, I'm sure at some point quickly we'll be developing a website and a listserv. People want to stay updated on that. The other thing that the bill requires is use or releases of certain PFAS compounds in foams is reportable to NDEP, and we'll be coming out with some guidance on that as well. So that's AB 97. The next one is AB 146. And so as many of you may know, some of the sources of pollution that contribute more significantly to streams, pollution, and impairment are non-point sources or diffuse sources, as they're called. These are sources that often don't come out of are managed in a pond or a pipe or sort of a discrete point source, but are more distributed. And while we do have technical assistance programs and grant programs associated with these sources. I think the legislature wanted to, kind of bolster Nevada's efforts in this area. This again is more of an advisory type law than a prescriptive law, but NDEP will be revisiting our best management practices manual and describing how we're addressing diffuse sources, tracking what's effective, updating best practices. And so that'll be coming out of our Bureau of Water Quality Planning, and they'll be working on updating that best management practices manual and the performance on a more frequent basis as a result of this legislation. That group right now is pretty busy with another regulatory action that started prior to the session. And so they'll be able to move on to this sort of in parallel and advancing after we get through this other effort that I'll talk about in a few minutes. Lastly, AB 148, colloquially known as the Mining Bad Actor Law. There have been a few laws in other states, notably Montana, that place requirements on either companies or what's called persons with controlling interest in those companies who have defaulted or failed to remedy a reclamation obligation for a mine to prevent NDEP from issuing a reclamation permit to those, and therefore not allow them to operate in Nevada until they, either remove the person with controlling interest who hasn't remedied that, or the situation has been remedied. And so one of the things that came out of this, and I think in general, everyone looked at this as, a great idea. I don't think, from NDEP standpoint, and even frankly, communities and frankly industry, that anyone has any interest in, perpetuating bad practices. It just creates problems for everyone down the line. Obviously, it always comes down to how do you define an entity that is in good standing or not? And it's actually pretty difficult. Our mining bureau, along with advice from our in-house legal support, Deputy Administrator Rick Perdomo, has produced a draft of these regulations. And we expect that a proposal will come out sometime in November, and that will be available for workshop, public comment. We expect the regulations for this to come into effect sometime in March. The unique thing about this law is it takes effect on April 1st, of 2022. And so we're kind of under a timeline to make sure that everyone knows, starting in late March, exactly what does it mean to be a bad actor? How do you remedy it? What are the information you have to provide? And so we're looking to present a rule proposal sometime in November, taking that before our State Environmental Commission in February. It would have to be heard then by the Mining Oversight and Accountability Commission prior to going to the Legislative Commission. So that's a lot to do between now and April. And that kind of wraps up. There was other legislation that came, but these are some things I thought might be of interest to Nevada tribes. And we can go to the next slide. So as I mentioned, just recently, the Bureau of Water Quality Planning is taking a pretty significant regulatory action in our surface water program. And it's basically a combined effort. And there's quite a bit of information available, if you aren't aware, on the website posted there. But in a nutshell, this is basically an update of the state's anti-degradation program. And the one thing that we found is there was not a consistent framework in our permitting program and for our permit writers to make sure they were addressing anti-degradation at all streams, anti-degradation requirements at all streams where there were not existing information in place so that they would default to water quality standards, which are, protective of in-stream uses, but not necessarily completely protective of an anti-degradation program, so that, nothing up stream, you're not changing the quality, and you're maintaining that quality that came in, as you began the discharge. And so we had an existing program in place, called the RMHQ, where we had some of those data available and some of those standards available for a number of streams, but many where those don't exist. Again, didn't have a clear, way of making sure they were maintaining water quality. And so this program that's been set up is, something that we're workshopping. We're talking to a number of stakeholders, and if folks are interested, they can, research more at the website there, or reach out to Paul Comba and his team within our Bureau of Water Quality Planning. The second part of this regulation is development of a more structured process for designation of what are known as ecological and aesthetic waters. And so right now, the only water body in Nevada that has this designation is Lake Tahoe, but there might be others, we suspect, around the state that could warrant special designation for protection. And so, although there's actually legally the ability to petition the State Environmental Commission, we thought that having a structured process for designating those would be helpful for everyone. And there's a lot involved with it. And we're trying to analyze what might come up in each of these programs, what the different implications or unintended consequences might be. We were originally planning to take this before the State Environmental Commission in December, but we're going to take some more time to go through some scenarios and understand the real world implications a little bit more before we move forward with this. I think this is an important thing to highlight, that not that there's anything, broken with our water quality protection system and how we're working on it, but I think this is a way to improve it and enhance it. I've had some people tell me that, the system we have in place is, been there for so long and nothing's really gone wrong with it. And I've really said that, this is really a protection measure to ensure that we maintain water quality, rather than, wait until something happens and then, we're making up for it. So, feel free to reach out or plug into that one if that's of interest to your programs. And we can go to the next slide. So this is just a slide that highlights some of the work that our AIR program is doing. And, I think it's more, opportunistic, I guess is the right word, in terms of, when does, the tribal environmental programs have, specific issues that come up, and, how do we work together to answer questions, solve problems. And it just wanted to highlight some of the things that recently have come up in our AIR program. Sometimes these are communications directly with the tribe. Sometimes they're facilitated by Cliff. So one of the things that we have working right now, and it'll be coming out the next probably couple of months, is, when the wildfires came, everyone is highlighting AIR Now. Everyone's highlighting the fire and smoke map. Those are great tools that EPA has provided, and that Nevada provides input into, along with our partner air quality agencies in Nevada. But when you kind of get down to specific locations and times, sometimes it can get a little confusing in terms of, when's the data updated and where's the data coming from and what does it mean, and trying to understand, more discreetly and specifically, how this affects air quality locally. And, if there's different times or maybe conflicting information, how do you resolve that? And so we got a request from a nonprofit group, Moms Clean Air Force, to do a kind of an explanation. And so we're working on developing that. And we just thought we'd offer, at some point, we'll work through Cliff to say if there are folks in the tribal environmental programs who want to hear that webinar, that might, be also useful for you. Another thing that we're routinely seeing, and we're happy to engage with tribes on this, is when different air quality operating permit applications come in, we're getting requests to present by tribal environmental directors before tribal councils. And the little graphic there I'm showing you is on the right, on the upper right, there is an analysis of modeling and air quality impacts from a proposed expansion at the Highcroft mine, and how that might impact the Summit Lake tribe. And we had a lot of good interaction with the environmental director, sort of, helping us understand what the questions were. And I think we were able to provide the information. So it's always helpful when, we get guidance from environmental directors as to what, the tribe might be interested in. And so another example here, and I think this may only apply to the Pyramid Lake tribe, but there's a lot of different funds coming out, and when NDEP has pretty good experience applying for some of these grants, we can offer to help tribes, because we know grant applications are always different. With specific ones that we have particular expertise in. And we have reached out to Pyramid Lake Tribe and may be able to help, since they maintain a school bus program, may be eligible to receive this money. So these are just some examples recently of how we're interacting with tribes, and there may be other opportunities that we come across. The next slide. So another program that's started this year within our Bureau of Sustainable Materials Management, it was formerly the Bureau of Waste Management. We've been basically rethinking fundamentally kind of the goals of our recycling program in Nevada. There's been a longstanding requirement or sort of goal, I would say rather, goal to achieve 25% recycling. And, from the information we've collected in the past, it wasn't really clear if we were achieving it, whether that's the right number, whether we should be tracking, maybe a group of metrics that would indicate success in terms of sustainable materials programs. And so we're kind of, I guess, hitting reset on the recycling program in general, even though we're continuing with a lot of our existing education and outreach and small grant programs. We're really trying to figure out, where does Nevada need to go in the future? And so we're really reaching out to get help from a number of stakeholders. We have pretty good participation. I understand that the team had reached out to a number of tribes, but due to resources or other priorities, I don't think we have much participation, if any, from tribes right now. But folks are welcome to join. And there's really like I said, EPA, rather than in a lead role, we are more in a facilitation and support role here. We've set up a number of work groups, and you see the different groups that are outlined there. And really the goal is to come up with recommendations for what would help Nevada improve sustainable materials management in Nevada. And there's more information available, including the webinar, and the kickoff meeting is available at the website you see listed there. And I'm ready for the next slide. So Cliff probably already gave you the update on this. As Cliff mentioned, the Thacker Pass lithium mine is a mine that's has a lot of attention right now. And we are in the midst of making some announcements about proposed decisions. So this is the stage of our permitting process where NDEP proposes a decision, and then we take public comment before making a final decision. And so we've done things a little bit differently here for this one, just given the interest and attention from many parties. We've done a couple of early outreach meetings, May and June, and sort of familiarizing everyone with what our process is and what we do. We've received many questions about how we permit mines and questions about these mines in particular. And so we were able to collect all those questions and provide sort of an early response to comments, if you will. Normally, when an agency does a permitting action, they'll take comments at the proposed decision stage and then provide a response to comments at the final decision stage. This time we've done things a little bit differently to try to, address as many concerns as we can, as early as we can. And we've posted there on the website that's listed here all the questions that we've received to date on the air side. And so that's kind of an early response to comments so that, people have a chance to understand how we've tried to address concerns and questions. As Cliff mentioned, we just issued notice of proposed decision to issue the air quality operating permit just on Monday. And that's a 30-day public comment period. So that will be separate from the 2 mining permits for water pollution control and for reclamation costs and reclamation cost estimates and plans. Those decisions for the 2 mining permits are pending. We do anticipate proposing decisions by the end of this month, and we're planning on holding 2 separate public meetings on each of those proposed decisions at the end of the public comment period in November. And as Cliff mentioned, we have reached out to the Fort McDermott Paiute-Shoshone tribe with an initial meeting in June, and we've offered a separate meeting with the tribal council or their designated representatives so that we can understand and try to address concerns from the tribe separate from the public comment period and public meetings that are for the general public, including members of the tribes if they want to participate in that process. So I think that's about it. I think, and then the next slide is just opening up for questions. I'll just mention real quick a plug for our non-point source program, showing an example there down at the, looks like the slide's off, but there was an example there of a successful non-point source grant project along the Carson River. May inspire folks to think about other non-point source programs around the state. So I think we're ready for any questions or discussion that folks would like to have. We have, it looks like about 12 minutes left.
I have one that was texted to me, Greg. Can you ask, are you aware of the baseline water quality standards for tribes that do not have them that EPA is moving to promulgate?
I'm not personally aware of them. Our water quality planning group would likely be, but yeah, that's helpful information and may relate to both of those programs that we're moving towards. And so, yeah, any information that folks can share, I can make sure that our water quality planning team is aware of what's happening there and how it might affect, and make sure that the state and tribal programs, if not the same, at least are aware of what each other's doing and that, we have an understanding of how they might affect each other.
Okay, so I'm going to type it in chat, so for reference for me after the meeting, after this. You guys have any other questions? Trying to think if anything came up that during one of those presentations. Oh, I did put in chat. So the Nevada Indian Commission has taken a role of tracking the Nevada bills, and they've missed a couple. We try to. I like that they're doing that, and so they can have that information. We had a lot of education bills, but there were some environmental bills, and I'm pushing emergency response type related things into environmental a little bit because they do have to do with natural resources. So Stacy Montooth is the executive director for NIC. So communicate with me or her. I communicate with her too on tracking of these bills. And what happens often is some of them don't get past committee, and it would help to have support at the meetings or through letter for some of these bills because often, well, I don't know if often is the right word, but there's a lack of information for the legislators to make a decision, and so they'll just it won't move. So so communicating that way could be helpful, beneficial to tribes because some of these things don't get done unless they're funded, and they were funded often only through Nevada, or at least state funding through legislative action. And then the other thing important is one thing I've learned in my role is state and also federal agencies will act according to the law, and they have to. And so if it's not written down, um, it's difficult for the people in the field for the state to make a decision at the point. So so if we need something changed, we need to put it in writing. And so that's why it's also important to make sure that as we move along, especially with climate change activities, that tribes are involved and it's written there, and that we are, we can always, after the fact, say, hey, we should be part of this, but it's easier and it makes more sense if we're at the table at the beginning through the bills themselves. Um, Kind of my opinion on that, but I think we can move forward faster and talk about streamlining if it's in the bill itself. That's the extent of my getting on a soapbox.
Thanks, Cliff.
Yeah.
So one thing I'll mention, I'm not sure if any representatives from the Nevada urban tribes are on the line here, but one of the activities that we're doing that is affecting urban areas is our clean cars rulemaking. We are going to be hopefully the 16th state to adopt California clean car standards. Really, this is an effort both to address air quality and reduce GHG emissions. We've made it through the State Environmental Commission in September, and we're scheduled to appear before the Legislative Commission this Friday. And, we understand that some of the impacts in many of our urban areas related to higher ozone concentrations, which are basically fueled by emissions from internal combustion engines, nitrogen oxides. And so limiting those is going to be helpful for air basins in general. Nevada is looking at evaluation of low carbon fuel standards, as well as medium heavy duty advanced clean truck standards, along with other states in discussion with the state of California. We're monitoring all the activities at the federal level, but we know that those can change with administration. So Nevada is doing what we can to address our most significant source of GHG emissions and air quality issues in urban areas, which is the transportation sector. And that's something to track if folks are interested.
Yeah, and I did want to add, as you put together that group, the PFAS group, in fact, that came up in the Monday's regional meeting, and there's high interest in that. We've seen the movement on that, and so I think tribes definitely are interested in their, being part of that.
Yeah, and I can talk a little bit more about that unless there's a chat, just so people kind of know what the thinking is there. we've been, I would say, fortunate, like I mentioned, that we haven't had any real significant detections in major public water systems. But the vulnerability of some of our different source waters, it just varies throughout the state, and so we're basically revisiting our vulnerability rankings for groundwaters around the state that serve as sources of drinking water, and then coming up with kind of a prioritization as well as a sort of a plan of action related to sampling. What do we do once we get the results? Who gets brought in? Those kinds of on steps that many states have found themselves sort of scrambling to address in the incident of a detection. But we're hoping to this work group will help to understand, how do we prioritize all that work? And then, once we do get results, what's the protocol for how we address detections? And, in terms of informing the public, taking physical actions and, long-term actions. And so that's the purpose of the work group, is to try to, develop recommendations related to those as well as any other aspects. So it's, thankfully it hasn't happened. We've had our experience in Nevada with perchlorate, just because it was manufactured down in near Henderson at two different plants, ammonium perchlorate. But since we don't have, it seems like the states that have had more significant impacts from PFAS have, using it, storing it in large quantities. Minnesota comes to mind, and a few others that, similar to us with perchlorate. So we haven't, but it doesn't mean there might be, firefighting activities or others that may be a threat, past activities to drinking water sources. So,
Yeah, on a related note, so that the state and EPA can pull the data or the information on the parts per all that chemical. But when you have these type of meetings, health and human services type related risk assessments, and I see how the EJ they were giving movement on letting people know where the data is on health impacts for some of these things. And so, environmental justice, I believe, has a presentation later, and they can talk a little bit on that. And I think a lot of this is being realized in GIS mapping, so make it easier for people to pull data, because there has to be coordination between agencies on some of this stuff. And you know, we, I don't think anybody wants to poison anybody, but it does help if you have the information at hand on. Okay, so you know they're going over the amount per, but what is the health impact? And so it's a really comprehensive subject or something if you're putting together something to make movement about changing language and policy or something like that. But I like what I'm seeing from EJ.
Yeah, I think that all of us who work in the environmental field as a career want the opportunity to make the most impact with the work we do. And so, in terms of, risk reduction. And so I think, I see a good, I guess, convergence there of, EJ concerns that may come from certain communities saying, hey, we're being overburdened with pollution. Um, how do we address this? What do you know, and what are we going to do about it? And I think, from the regulatory standpoint, we've always been, like I said, dedicated our career to saying, well, where can we make the most impact? So I do think that's a good opportunity. I know it's going to take a ton more tools.
Yeah.
The cumulative impact assessment, health impact assessments are not something that agencies are really staffed or resourced for. And so I know that EPA is looking to update its cumulative impact assessment guidance soon. And we're closely tracking all of that at NDEP. We're also taking a look at our funding sources and where our grants have gone, and getting familiar with how to understand what we've done in terms of, affecting underserved communities. That AB 146 bill I mentioned, I think that, and what was also Senate Bill 448 this session, did include a definition of underserved communities. That's the first maybe definition of what may be communities with environmental justice concerns in Nevada law. And so we're starting to compare our programs and understanding how they overlay with some of those demographic criteria that were included in both AB 146 and Senate Bill 448, just to understand where Nevada's at, because we know with Justice 40 at EPA and other steps that we're going to have to be very conversant in understanding how we're addressing environmental justice concerns. So I think we're over time.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming in. I know there's a lot of other sessions, so a lot of other directors were in them, not many, but the staff that's on here, the tribal staff, a lot of them are technicians, specialists in the field, and you guys will be the future directors. So it's important that you understand the process with the state. That's why we have these state sessions, to understand how we coordinate with the state on these matters. So thank you everyone for attending. Any follow-up with me, directed toward me, you can always contact Greg Lovato, and then I can also share the chiefs. That's what normally I would do, is communicate with the different bureaus for the state if there are specific things they need to know about or communicate with you guys on. So use me, and then Greg and I and his team will communicate. And again, thank you for attending. That's it.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Cliff.
Okay. No donuts and coffee today. Sorry, guys.
Enjoy.
Thanks, Greg.
All right. Bye.
Talk later. Okay. Bye.